Welcome to Mindful Chatting, a podcast where therapy meets real life. I'm Kristen, a therapist, business owner, and a lifelong student of what it means to fully show up in our relationships, in our work, and in our healing. Here, we unpack mental health concepts, explore mindfulness tools, and talk through the messy, beautiful, in-between moments that shape us. Whether you're a fellow clinician, a curious listener, or someone navigating your own growth, this space is for you. Let's chat. Hey friend, welcome back to Mindful Chatting. Let's take a second to settle in. Let's grab that comfort drink, wrap yourself up in a blanket, or let's sit in that cozy corner you always move to when life starts spinning just a little too fast. Because today we are opening up one of the biggest executive functioning struggles in ADHD, planning and prioritization, and why everything feels urgent all the time. If you've ever looked at your to-do list or your planner and thought everything has to be done right now or the world will burn down, then you, my friend, are in exactly the right place. Let's drop into this. ADHD adults don't really struggle with capacity, they struggle with hierarchy. Planning and prioritization requires your brain to, one, estimate your time, predict steps, sequence tasks, evaluate which is important, and then choose what to do first. But ADHD brains respond with time blindness, emotional overwhelm, dopamine-driven decision-making, urgency spirals, and impulsive task jumping. It's not that you don't know what needs to get done. It's that your brain doesn't know how to rank what needs to get done. So everything feels urgent. Everything feels like high stakes. Everything is emotionally charged. Everything is overwhelming, or everything feels now or never. And this is why planning feels really impossible and why procrastination is kind of inevitable. For ADHD brains, planning isn't a list problem. It's a neurological and neurobiological sequencing problem. So let's get into the neuroscience of this. If you're nodding along and thinking, yep, this is totally me, I want you to stop and take a free quiz. I have made a quiz about what's your ADHD struggle, and it'll only take a couple of minutes. And at the end, there's a secret freebie waiting for you that will help you start working on your struggle right away. Look in the show notes for the link. So let's break this down, but we're going to do it like we're sitting across each other with our iced coffee, because neuroscience can sometimes be complex. So let's talk about time blindness first. If you can't feel the passage of time, everything collapses into the same category, and ADHD brains usually go off a now or not now thing. There is really no middle ground. And if you're interested in learning more about time blindness, I have a whole episode on this. We also talk about emotional weighting. ADHD assigns priority based on emotion, not logic. And I know that sounds sad and crazy, but it is. If something triggers your anxiety, it becomes urgent. It becomes a right now thing. But if something is really boring and tedious and just not interesting, your brain downgrades it to a later or really never thing. And that's where procrastination comes in. We also underestimate time, and we underestimate steps. You think something will take you 10 minutes when it actually takes you 45, and now everything else is late because you underestimated the time. And this has a lot to do with time blindness. Plus, your working memory kind of fails. You forget what your priorities actually were. So the brain grabs whatever is the loudest, and it's going to be whatever's loudest in that moment, not what's loudest on the to-do list. Plus, we also have some hyper-focusing, and that gets hijacked. If you start a task, especially a dopamine-friendly one, everything else is going to disappear. So when you say, I don't know how to prioritize, you're not failing. Your brain is using a completely different internal ranking system than the neurotypical. That's why this is so hard for you. If you're working on staying present and grounded, which me too, we all need, especially when your brain wants to spiral into what we call disconnection. Yeah, it's Brain FM. It's musically designed to help ADHD brains, well, really any brain, to focus, relax, sleep, and I use it almost daily. If you want to try it, I've dropped my link in the show notes. And if you're looking for planning tools and ADHD resources, they're in there too. So let's talk about the cycle most ADHD adults live in when it comes to planning. So step one is we tend to overcommit because you assume the future you will have this infinite amount of energy and the perfect time management skills that really present you doesn't even have. And then step two is usually you freeze because then you have too many tasks because there's no hierarchy, and then we shut down. And then step three is panic. Everything feels late, everything feels like you're behind, and your body responds with this really excessive sense of urgency. And then step four, you hyper-focus on the wrong thing. Suddenly you're deep cleaning your fridge instead of replying to those emails that have been sitting there. And then step five is shame, and you burn out. You blame yourself instead of your executive functioning system. And this is where planning fails you, not because you don't want structure, but because you're trying to plan like a neurotypical brain. ADHD requires a totally different architecture, and we're going to talk about it. So let's walk through some tools that actually work for ADHD, not the ones productivity influencers swear by, the ones supported by executive functioning research and thousands of real ADHD adults. So tool one, there's the 3-slot priority system. So instead of ranking 12 tasks, your brain gets 3 buckets. It's a must do today, should do this week, or it would be nice if you did it. ADHD brains can't rate tasks 1 through 12, but they can rank 1 through 3. So if you take your top 12 tasks or all the tasks on your to-do list and you're just ranking them of, is it something I have to do today? Is this something I need to fit in during my week? Or is this something that I eventually would like to get to? And all you're doing is ranking them from 1 to 3 on your to-do list. So this will help you prioritize a little bit differently. Tool 2 is time anchoring. So we attach a task to when you have the energy for them. I know this sounds really crazy, but a lot of our energy and our capacity are aligned with each other in our planning. And we need to think about whether or not we're planning tasks for the energy that we have for that time. So high energy tasks, which are usually complex tasks, will require a lot from us from thinking and causes a lot of mental fatigue. Medium energy is like administrative tasks, things that do require us to think, but not too deeply. And then we have low energy tasks, which are kind of those maintenance tasks, those tedious things that don't really give us a lot of dopamine, but also don't require a lot from us. This stops you from planning for a version of yourself who doesn't really exist. So you're actually looking at your planning day or your schedule and going, I'm probably going to have more energy during this and this time. So this is where I might do a lot of my creative planning or my project planning or the things that require a lot out of me that maybe I feel fatigued afterwards. And then I may plan a low energy task after a higher energy task so that I am allowed in building myself structure to calm down and slow down instead of going from one high energy task to another. Tool 3 is where you start with a now task, not the biggest task, not the most important, the now task, the one that gets your brain moving, because momentum is always going to beat motivation every single time. So if we look at our 12 tasks on our to-do list, what's one thing that doesn't require a lot to motivate me on that I might actually enjoy doing? Just start there, because once you build up that momentum, all of those other tasks, as you're crossing them off, will actually build motivation to get a lot more things done than if you start with the most tedious and the one that requires the most energy from you. Tool 4. This is where we dismiss the full day plan. If your day is fully planned, this is where ADHD brains will kind of revolt and kind of like riot against our structured plan that we did like a week ago when we thought we would have all this energy and time and capacity. So we do need structure, but we do need flexibility, not rigidity. So we're trying to plan in blocks instead of hours. So if I know I have a high energy block, I'm not planning what I'm doing each minute of that block, but I am going to plan higher energy blocks of time or tasks for that blocks of time. And so I'm thinking about what could I possibly get done in a 2-hour block when I know I do have some good higher energy. And then tool 5 is priority pairing. So we're going to pair one urgent task with one meaningful or more rewarding task. And this kind of balances dopamine and prevents burnout. So this is what it kind of looks like. Let's say you really actually enjoy organizing your email. Let's just say that kind of gives you your anxiety and kind of brings you down. So we may also pair a more urgent task, like maybe a meeting where I don't need to require like a lot of energy from me, but I could also be organizing my email while still being kind of locked into my meeting so that I feel like I'm not wasting my time sitting there and actually burning a lot of my energy and motivation and momentum that I do have because this energy or this meeting is happening right now. I could plan it with something that maybe actually causes my anxiety to go down. That's just an example of how you can balance one meaningful task with another one. If you want to understand your ADHD in a deeper way, I've created the ADHD Crash Course, and it walks you through ADHD step by step so that you can actually start understanding your brain and not shaming it. Everything's in small, doable lessons designed for your ADHD in mind. The link is in the show notes. So let me say this clearly because ADHD adults rarely hear it enough. You are not lazy. You are not irresponsible. You do not lack discipline. You are not bad at being an adult. You are living inside a brain that processes time, urgency, sequencing, emotional weight, and task complexity completely different from the regular person. Your planning system failed you. You did not fail. When you learn how your brain prioritizes, you stop fighting yourself and you start building systems that actually work for you. If this episode is clicking for you, make sure you take the ADHD struggle quiz because planning and prioritization is one of the biggest diagnosed executive functioning categories. And keep your eye out. The upcoming ADHD executive functioning courses and the pilot planning course are going to go even deeper into how to build systems around your brain instead of trying to force yourself into neurotypical frameworks. And all of these links are in the show notes if you're interested. All right, friend, let's take a breath. You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to understand your brain a little more today than you did yesterday. As always, be gentle with your mind. Hey, if you want to be first in line for the ADHD Planning Stack pilot course, make sure you sign up to get early access, discounts, and extra support. The link is in the show notes.